Alrighty, hi everybody. Welcome to the Building with Sovereign Data on Ceramic Network workshop. Here we have Joel from our sponsor Ceramic, and he is going to be running this workshop for you guys. If you guys have any questions during the duration of the workshop, just throw them in the chat. And if they're relevant to what he's talking about at that present moment, I'll present them to him. But for the most part, they'll be saved for the end. Joel, you can go ahead and get started.
Cool. Thank you, Nisha. All right, so hi everyone, I'm Joel, co-founder of Gearbox Labs and creator of Ceramic. And so today I'm gonna give you kind of a brief overview of like what Ceramic is and kind of what you can use it for. And then I'm gonna show you a kind of demo of like how you can interact with Ceramic. So Ceramic is essentially a decentralized network for user-generated content. So you can think of it as like any data that your users generate as they interact with your decentralized application can be stored and kind of tracked and be verifiably audited by other people in the network. So let me see if I can change slides. So the basic building block of Ceramic is a data stream. And so stream has a state. So you can think of it as like an object that you can mutate over time. And this object has cryptographic access control. So it's controlled by some public key. And so we use something called decentralized identifiers, DIDs, to control access and who can read and write of these data streams. The network is completely peer-to-peer and local first. So you can actually, when you write data, you only update your stream, and so there's like no global consensus on data. Rather, you can kind of track and verify the pieces of data that's like relevant to your application. And you can store kind of any type of data, and you can create data models inside of Ceramic. So the streams represent some kind of JSON data, and you can put JSON schemas to kind of define what the data is allowed to look like. And some things that this can be used for. I mean, the main kind of thing is like this becomes kind of like a sovereign network where users are in full control over their data, and ultimately that like they're part of the social graph and kind of like a global user table. And so obvious things you can use this for is like aggregating identity information and ultimately like reputation information. You can store other kind of public data in there, like NFT content, like mutable NFT content. So like you can have content that's like changeable by the owner of an NFT. And of course, like you can use this as like a social infrastructure. You can store comments or votes or other kind of signaling information useful in like governance tools and stuff like that. And one nice aspect of this is like the data stored in Ceramic becomes kind of like open source. So it's not tied into like one particular application. Rather, the data can be shared across multiple applications. And you can also like link multiple blockchain accounts to the same data. So you can have like a Filecoin address that links to your DID or an Ethereum address, or both, and then like link that to like potentially accounts on other blockchains or like multiple accounts in the same blockchain. And so one of the main things we've been focusing on with Ceramic is making it easy to store user data and make that like and making it possible for developers to store user data in a semantically meaningful way. And so the system we built for this is called IDX, and each user has their own. In IDX is like a framework on top of Ceramic. So in IDX, each user has their own data store. And the data store is basically a mapping from definition to record. So the definition kind of semantically describes the data, and the record stores the data. So in this example, we have a developer that created a basic profile definition. And this definition also includes a schema. That's a JSON schema that defines the structure of the data. And then when a user comes to the application, they create a record and store their profile in this basic profile definition. And in the record, they have like their name and like some other information. And then, of course, like when different users come to the same application, they get the same definition ID, but they get their own record ID and their own record. So the neat thing now is like once some developers created this data object here in this example, a basic profile, you can come and build an application and see like, oh, this basic profile seems super useful, and I want to pull that into my application. And then basically you can leverage the network effect of like existing applications that come before you. All right, so I'm gonna jump right into the demo. And so let me change my screen share. Actually, okay, so here I have a browser, and in this browser I've loaded used playground that we have. So this playground is connected to the ceramic clay test network, and so you can access this using this URL. You can find it if you go to the Ceramic Studio GitHub. And basically what this demo does is it uses an authentication system we have called 380 Connect, which allows you to authenticate using your Ethereum wallet or other blockchain wallets, and then start writing and reading data from IDX. So in this example, we'll connect with MetaMask and then start interacting with data just in the developer console. So you're gonna kind of get a sense of what's possible. So I'm gonna click here on Connect Wallet. Now 380 Connect pops up and asks for permission. So you're gonna click Continue here. And if everything goes right, it should ask for a signature. And so what happens here, it's like loads the existing profile from the Ceramic network. Hopefully everything should work all right. I don't know why this is pending. Just gonna try to do this. This usually doesn't take this long. Yeah, basically what it's doing right now is basically checking if this user has already a 3box profile. So if people have created identities on 3box before, they will get migrated. All right, so if this is taking longer than expected, I'm going to show how you can also use Ceramic from your CLI. So we have a CLI script which you can install with like npm install Ceramic network. Okay, it looks like this is making progress. So yeah, so now I'm like authenticating with 380 Connect, and it asks me to sign a message with MetaMask. I'm gonna sign this, and now I should shortly be like connected here. All right, so now we see here a message in the console connected with this DID. And so we see here DID3, and like this is basically the identifier I have on the Ceramic network. So now we can start interacting with Ceramic. So the first thing I'm going to do is just to create a data stream. So I'm going to start creating a simple thing. This one, I think I have something prepared here. And yeah, I'm just going to create a tile document. So tile is a data stream in Ceramic that's just a simple JSON object. And preloaded in this console here, I have this tile document class. I also have an instance of Ceramic. So I call the create function here, pass Ceramic, and I pass a first kind of state of my data stream. So now if I execute this, this will now I have like this stream instance that I have on S1, and I can do S1.content, and I will see that I have this object. And now the interesting thing here is I can also do S1.id, and I'm going to do toString on this. So now I have a unique identifier for the stream. And so the cool thing here is this stream ID will remain the same even if I make an update to the stream. So I'm going to go ahead and make an update here. So I'm going to do await s1.update, and I have something prepared here as well. So now I'm just going to change from hello world to hello updated world. And now if I do s1.content again, I get this new content here, updated world, but I still have kind of the same ID here. And now this stream has been created, I can actually load this from any Ceramic node on the network. So I'm just going to go here to my console and start the Ceramic daemon on the Clay testnet. So now this basically spins up an IPFS node and connects to the Ethereum network and starts kind of the Ceramic node. And so you can see that now it's running here. And now I'm gonna just execute command here. So I'm gonna do Ceramic show and then paste this. So now this will load this data stream from the Ceramic network if everything was loaded all right here. Yeah. And so now you can see that I loaded the updated version of data here. See hello updated world. And the neat thing we can do also here is we can actually inspect the data structure here. Or kind of look at the internals of the data stream in Ceramic. So I can show Ceramic state, and I'm going to look at this. And so the underlying data structure of a Ceramic stream is an append-only list that is built in IPFS and Ethereum. So here we can see that in the log here, we have like the first object and the second object. So the first object is what we created first, and then there's a new object that points back to the previous object. And that's kind of how we do like keep track and create like an audit log of changes. All right, so I'm going to jump back into here, and I'm going to show you that you can actually enforce the data to take certain shapes in Ceramic. So first, I'm just going to create a schema. And so I prepared this already. Here we have a JSON schema that basically forces a JSON object to have a title and a message. And so I'm just going to store that in the schema variable. Then I'm going to do create a new stream that puts the schema, or like creates a stream in Ceramic with the schema. So I create a new tile document, create, pass Ceramic, and I pass the state, which is now the JSON schema here. And create this object. And now same thing here, schema stream, and I can look at the content, and I get the kind of JSON schema content. And so now I want to create a stream that uses this schema as kind of like a way to enforce the content. So in order to do that, first need to check the current commit ID of the schema stream. And so a commit ID is similar to the stream ID, which we looked at before, but it refers to like a specific version. So in this case, the version that has not been updated. So I can, in Ceramic, I can refer to like specific versions of a data stream or the latest version. All right, so I'm going to use that and now create a post. So I'm going to post one, and let's see. All right, so I'm just going to type wait, tile document, create, and like pass in Ceramic, and just do title. And now, so this is the content. So first we pass ceramics, and then we pass the content. But now I can also pass some additional metadata. So I'm going to pass schema, and I'm going to make that schema into the commit ID we got from above. So I'm going to add that there. And now I'm going to try to create this post one. It didn't work. And so why didn't it work? Validation error, data must have the required property message. So now we can see that if I try to create a scheme or a stream, a tile document in Ceramic using this schema, it won't actually allow me to create it unless I also have this message property that we can see is required up here. So let me try again. And I'm going to add a message. see everything. I think I need to change this variable name. All right, so now I created this, and let's look at it. Post2 dot content, and we can see the content here that we're expecting. But also we can do post2, and every stream in Ceramic has metadata. So I can do metadata dot schema. And now I see the schema is actually the same schema as we got here, which can be expected. We can also inspect the controller, and the controller is the DID that, or like the user identity that's allowed to make updates. So here we can see did 3 and this string here, and which is the same as the one up here. This ends in CXP. So yeah, it's the same one. This is the one we're currently authenticated with. So yeah, so this is kind of like how you interact with the lower levels of Ceramic. But we can also start looking at IDX. So IDX, as I mentioned, is like this framework on top of Ceramic, which allows you to kind of interact with user data more directly. So for example, I can try to load a profile. So I'm going to check actually if this DID we got here above has a profile. So I'm going to do get and basic profile. And I'm going to pass DID here we got here. It's annoying. No, I'll scroll. We're going to try to type that, and if it loads. So obviously it's like not optimal, or like not like, you might ask like, why do I need to like know this DID, or like how do I find that? Well, and that might not be totally obvious, and it's also like, yeah, you might not know the DID beforehand. So like, how do you deal with that? Well, so one thing you might know from beforehand is the Ethereum account, or like the Ethereum address of a user. So instead of passing the DID here, and now we can see that resolved to like a profile. So basic profile is like a standard definition that's included in Ceramic, or in IDX, I mean. So here we instead, let's try to pass the Ethereum address, and we need to specify that it's on Ethereum mainnet, so EIP1551, which is a way to represent mainnet, and this string actually needs to be lowercase. This is some quirk that we're currently fixing. But yeah, so let's try this, and now let's try to load the profile for my Ethereum address rather than my DID. And if this works, we should get the same profile. Yep, so you got the same profile. And similarly, you can use IDX to do like IDX.set and like update the basic profile. And yeah, so that's basically it. I'm not going to go through everything in detail. And so the basic profile is like one example of a definition. But you can, of course, create your own data models in IDX that has your own definitions and has like enforces different types of data structures on there. Cool, and so that's it for the demo. I'm going to jump back into kind of the last slides of the presentation. Cool, so right, so now that we kind of seen how we can interact with these primitives and like get basic data from like an Ethereum address, this also kind of works with other types of blockchain addresses as well. Why do we need this, and like what can we do with it? So one thing that's like really cool with IDX and like Ceramic in general is like we can start building applications that specify their data models, and the data models kind of are kind of open source. So we can start reusing each other's data models, or if there's application 1, I can pull that data into a new application. And we can start like looking at data that's available in the network and see kind of what makes sense for us to use in our application. And with Ceramic, since we have these data streams that are cryptographically signed and also like anchored into the Ethereum blockchain, we get this audit log of that kind of guarantees data integrity. We can also start like linking data together, where I can point to other data, and we can start creating this graph of data and like essentially like build a social graph, or maybe like a web of trust between different individuals without enforcing like any specific way of building trust. We could start building trust in kind of human, very kind of diverse set of ways. And I kind of already mentioned this kind of these silos data. Data doesn't really live now within any organization or any nation boundaries. The data becomes like this global commons. And we can start like creating these shared data models, as I mentioned. And yeah, the other cool thing is like when we have these shared data models, my application and your application does not have our own network effects. We actually share network effects, which is like super synergistic once we start like building applications. And finally, like users have sovereignty over their data, so they ultimately control what goes in there and like how it changes and is being updated. To get started with building with Ceramic, I recommend going to the developer documentation. So we have that on developers-ceramic.network and developers.idx.xyz. We also have some examples here for like code and like for some tutorials. We also have a kind of basic profile app that you can use to kind of get a sense of like what a Ceramic application might feel and look like. This is self-ID, which is just like a simple way to create and update the profile. And yeah, you can get in touch with us on Discord. It's probably best. We also have a Twitter. And yeah, that's essentially it. So I would like to open it up for questions, and I'm going to stop sharing. Right. Hey, Jin, I can read your questions, or if you want to ask it out loud, feel free to do so as well.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, so my question's about if I were to adopt Ceramic for my decentralized application, do I need like a node in the background to publish the user informations, user streams?
Yeah, so the Ceramic network is built out of nodes, right? So and in the network, each node kind of decides which data streams they pin. So if you're building an application right now, the easiest way to do that is to run your own node and then like make your front end talk to that node. In theory, like we also have like the whole system is actually built in TypeScript, so you could run a Ceramic node in the browser, but that's kind of very tricky to get right. So right now, I recommend like using the Ceramic HTTP client and then connecting that to a node that runs on like some kind of infrastructure.
Gotcha. Is there any concern that if my server goes down, like the information will be lost?
Yeah, so the best way to like mitigate it from that is to so you can configure like backup options with one node, but the best way to mitigate like data loss in the Ceramic network in general is to actually pin the data streams on like multiple nodes. And
Thanks.
so a stream in Ceramic can be replicated on any number of individual or independent nodes. All right, is there any other questions?
Okay, if not, then thank you so much, Joel, for running this really informative workshop. And thank you, Ceramic, for sponsoring HackFS this year. I want to encourage you guys to keep this conversation going in the Ceramic Discord. There's a channel called Sponsor Ceramic that you guys can talk to Joel in. And yeah, thank you guys so much for coming to this workshop. And thank you again, Joel. Okay,
Yeah,
bye.
thanks.
Have a great day, everybody.